on fire. Y'all got one of the best shows in the world. So, all the fans need to tune on to this show.
Boxing fans, welcome back to another edition of Tell Us About That. I'm your host, On Fire, and I'm here to take you on a thrilling journey through the world of boxing. On today's show, I'd like to welcome a former world champion turned boxing promoter with an eye for the future. With a relentless passion for the sport, they've just inked a deal with DAZN to bring us exclusive fights and the adrenaline of boxing on a regular basis. And here to talk about that today is Salita Promotions own Dmitriy Salita.
It's been a couple of moons since we've last talked. I see your page and see interviews of myself and some of the guys that I grew up with, like Paulie and Louis and Bob Arum and Lou DiBella from the early 2000s and Broadway boxing. So it's amazing for me to connect with you and great to see those videos because it brings back a lot of great memories. And as you know, better than most people, it's been a full circle journey for me. And I love the sport of boxing, as you said, and I'm very grateful to be in the position that I am today and be of service to the boxing industry now at this end of the game.
And we thank you for coming on. And of course, we thank you for the kind words. I figured with me being gone for so long and then returning to the sport, those little jewels and gems of interviews that I've had can make a big difference and a big impact on the boxing world today.
100%. You know, there was a certain type of era, and it was great that social media and ways to capture things was much easier than it was in the 90s and the 80s. But particularly in the world of boxing, and much more so in New York City, which was a real big hotbed for boxing talent and for events and for the business of boxing, and to be able to see some of it and to see, you know, some of the guys in the background, the crowd, the interviews, it just gives over that certain flavor that I loved and that I was grateful to be a part of. And it's great that you were able to capture it and now have a chance to repost it for myself, for the fellow boxers, but most importantly for the fans to see, to see and to relate to that era of boxing.
You had a very illustrious amateur career. Tell me what it was like for you as a fighter to capture a world title.
So I grew up in Starrett City Boxing Club, which is no longer really around in a way that it was back in those days. I started boxing in 1995. Starrett City Boxing Club was located in the basement of a parking garage in Starrett City, which is a bit of a rougher area in Brooklyn. And it had no air conditioning, no heat, no running water, no bathroom. To go to the bathroom, you had to go outside, get a special key into the parking garage. Water was shared in different milk crate bottles that all of us would go and share in between rounds. So it was truly the school of hard knocks. And from the first day in the gym, I was exposed to some of the best boxers in the world, guys like Monty Barrett, Shannon Briggs, Louis Collazo, Travis Sims, Curtis Stevens, Anthony Irons, Danny Jacobs, the list goes on. And there are so many fighters that came out of there that did not become big professionals, but were very good amateurs and just amazing fighters. So, really from 13 years old, I was educated in boxing, in really in a tremendous way. And I had a mentor in my corner, Jimmy O'Farrell, Jimmy O, who took me under his wing and really molded me and taught me a lot of lessons inside and outside the ring. And now on the other side of the sport, being in a bit of a different position, many of those lessons, are coming alive. And as I get older, Jimmy O gets wiser. So certainly, fighting in New York City, fighting in Madison Square Garden as an amateur and as a professional, fighting on HBO, fighting on Showtime, networks that are no longer in boxing, was just so incredible and so fulfilling. And I'm an immigrant. I came to the United States from the former Soviet Union, from Ukraine. My family was on welfare and food stamps, and kind of the traditional story of why I gravitated to boxing. And even though I was, a bit different, because people from my community, my background, don't usually gravitate to a boxing gym, much less a place like Starrett City Boxing Club. but very grateful for those unique experiences. And these days, a lot of times fighters and people in the industry see me, and because I've now been, on this side for some time, that don't really know about my past as it related to my boxing career, which was really, my whole life. And so my first education is a school of hard knocks, and then came everything else.
How was the transition from boxer to promoter, and what's one important thing that you took with you along the way?
So the most important thing that I took with me along the way is the love and passion for the sport of boxing. I think like a boxer, and I think like a boxing fan when I am in the business of boxing, making fights and making events. And towards the end of my career, I started to think about the business of boxing, started to think about getting into the promotion side of it. Many of the people so first of all, as a fighter, I had an incredible opportunity to be signed to some of the best promoters in the sport of boxing. My first promoter was Top Rank, who I was with for about 3.5 years. Then I was Lou DiBella, who at that time really ruled New York City. Then I was with Square Ring, which was a breakoff of Don King Promotions. And then I fought for Golden Boy and then started to promote my own events. So really had a very in-depth look into the way different people who are incredible did business. And as a fighter, I got a chance to taste it and to experience it. And towards the end of my career, I became a free agent. I did not want to sign with anybody, and I wanted to see if I can stage my own fight. So from the time that I had an idea to promote an event to the day it happened was about 5.5 weeks. I got a TV broadcaster to televise it, and Louis Collazo for my undercard. He was also in the same position as I was. And then Jarel Miller was the first fighter I signed. So just kind of kept rolling, and the event was sold out. I saw business for it in it. Obviously, those early steps were very difficult, but my love for the sport of boxing was so intense that I loved learning, and I even enjoyed making mistakes, even though sometimes they were very painful. But I enjoyed the process of learning and becoming better, and meeting different people and experiencing, those relationships with the same people, but now in a different format as a promoter, someone in business, as opposed to somebody as a fighter.
From an idea to put on fights to 5.5 weeks later and putting on that event, here we are in 2024, an exclusive deal with the DAZN, Big Time Boxing USA. Tell us about that.
So our first event is going to be February 20th in Detroit. Towards the end of my career, Jimmy O called Emmanuel Stewart and said, "Emmanuel, I'd like you to help Dmitriy." And I came to Detroit to the Kronk Boxing Gym, and I trained with Emmanuel for a little bit. Then Emmanuel had to go to camp, and he said, "Dmitriy, I'm leaving. I have to go to camp." I think it was with Vladimir Klitschko. Sugar Hill is here. This is like literally what he said. He said, he does the same stuff that I do, so just train with him. And I started training with Sugar, and our friendship and our relationship grew. And I saw so many talented boxers in the gym. And I was like, well, when is the professional boxing fight night in Detroit? And there was nothing happening. Then I went to an event, which was kind of like high school wrestling. And I thought to myself, wow, this city produced some of the best fighters in the sport of boxing. And there is not a real world-class professional boxing program here. So that's when those early thoughts started to develop in my mind. Years later, when I started promoting, I started the Detroit Brawl Boxing Series, which we started doing in Detroit. Then I signed Clarissa Shields, and some years later, Jermaine Franklin, and many other young fighters. And on the show, February 20th, we're going to have talent in the sport of boxing who happen to be from Detroit and from the state of Michigan. In the main event, Adriel Holmes fighting Marlon Harrington, two highly touted junior middleweights. In the co-main event is Ali Ismailov. He's a blue chip light heavyweight contender. He's only 11-0 on BoxRec. He's number 5, 6, or 7 today, world rated. On the prospect end, we have Joseph Hicks, U.S. Olympic team captain, junior middleweight, very talented fighter. Deval Smith from the Kronk Boxing Gym, People say he's the next Tommy Hearns. And Joshua Pagan, U.S. national 9-0 lightweight. Very excited about those guys. They're all in pretty interesting fights. And Big Time Boxing USA is exactly what it sounds like. It's about bringing big time boxing back to the United States at the grassroots level, but at the same time, giving it the exposure and the limelight and the media sport of boxing deserves. For the sport of boxing to grow, the fans have to get behind it. They have to build a intimate relationship with the boxing fans, and to connect to them on different levels of their career. So some guys like Ali is maybe a fighter or two from fighting for a world title. Deval Smith, 7-0 in the beginning of his career. Joshua Pagan, different fighters that are going through different stages. Sometimes they're going to have spectacular knockouts. Sometimes they're going to have to dig down deep and fight a tough fight. And it's very important for the fans and for the media to be able to see them, to connect to them, to go through those. And that's what's going to help the sport of boxing grow. We're planning to do events all over the country. I definitely want to come back to New York City. I do believe that it can be very successful, but we're starting it in Detroit as one of the historic hometowns of boxing. I believe it's for, and I look forward to a great night.
Wayne State Fieldhouse in Detroit. Tell us about that venue and why you chose it.
Great question. So we did a June 3rd event at Little Caesars Arena, which is the new Joe Louis Arena, for lack of a better example, the Madison Square Garden of Detroit, and the newest and the most beautiful arena in Detroit, and one of the most beautiful arenas in the United States. Absolutely amazing. Never had boxing before, and I felt that there was no better person to open it up for his significance than Clarissa Shields. And it was a little more than after Tommy Hearns won his world title in the city of Detroit at Joe Louis Arena, which was the other big building in Detroit that had all the major league events. So the Little Caesars Arena is home to the Pistons. It's home to the Red Wings, home to big-time concerts like Drake and Madonna and all superstars. We want to continue the big-time boxing experience. And so we've developed some relationships. And the best, most appropriate mid-sized venue in the city, we felt, was the Wayne State Fieldhouse, which is home to, which is Detroit Pistons G League team. It's a beautiful venue, brand new, beautiful for boxing. And I believe that there is no bad seat in the house. It's all amazing. About 3,000 seats. So it's big and intimate at the same time. And when punches land and when people cheer, I feel the energy. So I look forward to an exciting live night for the fans at the arena, as well as those watching it in the zone.
HBO had Boxing After Dark. Showtime gave us Showbox. How do you hope that this series, along with the Zone, replaces those two?
Great example, and that is exactly the idea. So, I had the honor of promoting many Showbox events and developed many fighters through that series, like Jarel Miller, Clarissa Shields, Otto Whalen, Shojak Hanargasha, Vladimir Shishkin. The list goes on. And it was a great development platform. And Gordon Hall, the former VP of programming at Showtime, just did a tremendous job in making sure that every event is the best that it could be. So I've benefited from it and felt that as a boxer and as a fighter, this is a place that you want to see. You want to see young fighters fight other young fighters in crossroads fights, in competitive fights, and take the next step in their careers. So, I feel like the sport of boxing is going through a renaissance stage, with Showtime getting out of boxing some years before that. And boxing grows when there's talent developed, when there is a way for young fighters to develop and to grow. And, we have all the infrastructure and the vision to implement it. And I'm very grateful to the Zone, their vision and their confidence in me, in giving me the ability to stage this series. And this will showcase some of the best young fighters in the world. Some have been seen, some have not been seen. As an example, Ali's last fight, He was the main event on Showtime, International Boxing Hall of Fame weekend, which is one of the most prestigious events of the year. He beat Charles Foster, who was an undefeated world-rated fighter. So this is going to be a great series for old boxing fans that love boxing fans, and we're going to keep adding different initiatives to make it funner, to make it more fulfilled, to make the fights competitive, and to give fans an incredible experience.
Realistically, how often do you hope to stage events for us boxing fans?
We'd like to stage an event ideally every 6 weeks or so. So we're finalize this one, working on the next one, which should be announced sometime soon. One of the, I was signed with Top Rank. So Top Rank, I believe I fought 6 times my first. And activity is very important. It's very important for the fighter, and it's very important for the boxing fans to be able to turn on TV and see a guy that they saw 2 months ago and see him in competitive fights. So activity is very important, especially for a series like this where we're developing talent and giving them the tools and the experience to go to the next level. So we'll be announcing some big news soon. The other thing that I feel that the boxing world needs is storytelling. As a kid, I would rush home from the boxing gym to go and watch HBO boxing because of the stories that they told, because of the music that they played, really captured and pulled you in. And in today's day and age of social media, where everybody's so connected and don't need to go and sit down in front of their TV to watch content, I believe that telling the fighters stories from and why they box and where they want to go is very important. And that's another initiative that we plan to do with this series, is to tell stories of these fighters through pictures, through videos, through storytelling, through the press, not just boxing press, regular kind of mainstream press, so that sports fans can get engaged and love the sport of boxing again.
Why should the boxing fans in Detroit try and make it to the event, and those not in Detroit watch on DAZN?
Well, for the fans in Detroit that are boxing fans, that are sports fans, some of the best young talent in the United States is going to showcase their skills at the Wayne State Fieldhouse in competitive fights. So they'll be able to see what I believe will be champions of tomorrow and big names in the sport of boxing. And there's nothing like a live, high-level boxing is going to be. Those watching on DAZN, same thing. Some of the best talent in the United States in the world of boxing will showcase their skills on February 20th and in follow-up events as well. And the way they'll be brought to you will be great and incredible, and you get a chance to see the next generation of tomorrow's world champions.
Your fighter, 3-time undisputed Clarissa Shields, is fighting in an MMA fight. Give us your thoughts about that.
Clarissa is like the Michael Jordan of today. Athlete, and she loves to challenge herself and keep climbing up to the next level. So Michael Jordan played baseball. He was a great basketball player. He gave it a go at baseball because he wanted to challenge himself. Clarissa wants to be a two-sport star, and I believe that for Clarissa's and for popularity, the MMA fans, which is a big part of the world, big part of the sports world, is something that will only help her grow and get bigger. And, what I've seen firsthand is, I visit Clarissa in our boxing training camps all the time. So when she first started doing, I could see that her physical strength and her athleticism just went to another level, because she's been doing things and doing exercises that folks don't normally do in the sport of boxing. So it keeps her active and in shape throughout the year, keeps her doing different things. The PFL, which is a company that she signed with her, and they've been doing a great job promoting Clarissa and promoting the sport of boxing as well through her. So they're great partners. And Clarissa is the GOAT. She's the GOAT in the boxing ring. And she's just challenging herself to be the best, to push the envelope. Women, men, minorities, majorities around the world that if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. And Clarissa is from Flint, Michigan, one of the most challenging cities in the United States. As a young girl, believed in herself and believed in women's boxing before it was a business. Won Olympic gold medal 2 times, and then turned pro. So, and really, you know, there's a lot of great stories in women's boxing, and they're all wonderful champions, and I respect them, and I wish them much success. But it took somebody like Clarissa, who is outspoken, who's confident, who has the skills inside the ring and the backstory and the personality to drive the sport of boxing, because women's boxing is still in its it's towards the end of its birthing period, to drive the sport of boxing to the next level. It took somebody like Clarissa, and she's the first woman in the sport of boxing to be the main event on premium cable network television for Showtime. You know, before we did this deal with DAZN, I believe that she may be the only fighter that fought on Showtime, HBO, ESPN, and DAZN. And we just wanted to get her that and keep telling her story. I grew up in the sport of boxing. I do not know a fighter in the peak of their career, American fighter, that went to fight their rival in that fighter's home country. That's what Clarissa did last year, a year and a half ago, actually, when she went to England and beat her long-term rival in London in front of 20,000 fans supporting Savannah Marshall. And towards the end of the fight, they were supporting Clarissa. So Clarissa is just an incredible story, an incredible fighter. Once she, 20, 30 years from now, she's the greatest athletes of this generation, beyond boxing, beyond sports. And big news coming for Clarissa this year, where not just boxing fans, but regular folks will be able to hear her story and support her.
December 23rd, your fighter Otto Wallin retired on a stool against Anthony Joshua. Is it too soon to say what's next for him? Well,
there's not a lot of fighters in the sport of boxing that can say they fought Tyson Fury and they fought Anthony Joshua. So, I think that Otto has a lot to be proud of. If he calls it a day, he had a great career. And, another great story of what boxing can do. He's from a small town in Sweden and believed in himself. Hooked up with his trainer, Joey Gamache, sometime mid-career. I was discovered him, signed him when he was already in the United States. And his third fight with me, he fought at Tyson Fury and obviously did what he did. And, grew on from there. So Otto did a great job. So, Anthony Joshua, by the way, I was there ringside, and seeing him is the best I've seen him in a long, long time. I was there. I also represent Jermaine Franklin. I was there when he fought Jermaine Franklin, and he was hesitant. You could see his confidence wasn't there. He was like double guessing himself. But in this fight, his power, his skills, his timing was just incredible. And I look forward to his fight with Ngannou. It's going to be a good one.
Also on that card on the 23rd, Jarel Miller. Can he make a comeback?
I think, Jarel, Daniel Dubois was the, at least on paper, the toughest opponent that he's fought. And I do believe that Jarel had the possibility to beat him, and I thought that he would win. But he hasn't been on that stage in a long time. And I believe that, being heavier than he wanted to be and, going into those later rounds with that weight, he felt it. And if he can learn from this experience, get himself in shape, which I think he will do, he can use this as a stepping stone. And with a win or two, an impressive win or two, he can come back to that elite level as well. The heavyweight division is a little bit different than the rest of the boxing world because we're good, but if you lose and you learn and you come back, you can rehabilitate yourself. So it's up to Jarel really. If he comes into comes for the next fight and he's 15, 20 pounds lighter and shows progress, I believe that the fans will give him another shot. But again, it's Jarel, and I believe that he has the talent and the skills and obviously the personality to engage the boxing fans and to make for interesting fights. I just saw Jarel put out a video with Antonio Tarver, and he said, I like to talk, but it's time for me to kick my own in shape and show you what I'm all about. So I hope that he follows on that initiative, and if he does, he'll be a force once again.
Ironically, another one of your fighters quit on his stool against Subriel Matias, Ergashev. What's next for him?
Well, that was a little different because actually the corner stopped the fight because he got injured. He got stabbed, and his leg swelled up in the corner. I think the round before, and he couldn't move and couldn't do what he needed to do, and so the corner decided to stop the fight, which was the right thing to do. But I do believe that he did really well for the first couple of rounds, showed that he could fight on that level and fight on that level successfully. Saber Matias, I got to tell you, is maybe the best junior welterweight in the world. I think he's the best junior welterweight in the world. He's just strong, smart. His boxing IQ is incredible. So because he's not flashy, people may kind of discount him or disregard him, but he's very effective, and he has a lot of similarities to Roberto Duran in the sense that he makes you miss, cuts off the ring, has lots of very subtle defensive and offensive moves. Look flashy on television, don't look flashy, but are very effective. And he showed it with Ergashev, and he showed it in all of his other wins. There is not a champion from Puerto Rico, I believe, these days that has the ability of Saber Matias. And for some years, there has not been a fighter from Puerto Rico of big magnitude to be able to capture the island's imagination. Tito Trinidad, Miguel Cotto, and I do believe that Matias has the ability to be the next guy up.
What can the boxing fans expect from Salita Promotions in 2024?
Well, we look forward to putting on great fights and great events and signing the best fighters and developing. I believe that we have a great track record of developing fighters from unknown to giving them the opportunities to fight for the world title and developing through that process. So I did it with many guys without a consistent TV deal. I had some showbox events, but it wasn't consistent. But I believe that now with this the DAZN deal, I just have the foundation much better to be able to do fights, do events, and develop talent in a real way. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I believe that the boxing world and the boxing community will benefit from it.
I agree with you. I believe the boxing fans will be excited. More boxing means more excitement, more adrenaline.
You gotta, this is how I look at it. You gotta think to yourself, well, what can I do for the sport of boxing? How can I make it better? How can I contribute? And when I look at these events and when I put it together, I think of it as a boxing fan. Like, what would I want to see? What do I want to see? Do I want to see this guy in this type of fight or in that type of fight? And it's a combination of those thoughts that give me the idea of putting these events together. And 25 years ago, when I signed with Top Rank 23 years ago, Top Rank has been known as the best developing fighters. And I saw it firsthand, with the matchmaking, with the gradual progression of fighters, with all the different tools that they used in making sure that a fighter goes from being a talent to being a star to being a superstar. And everyone meaning I have my own personality and my own thoughts and my own initiatives, but to have that type of vision and to have that type of experience and that type of education and being able to fight Floyd Mayweather undercards and Vladimir Klitschko and De La Hoya and Barrera and Morales, to, a vision from the top of the mountain. And I myself, I fought at a high level. I wasn't a superstar, but I fought at a level where I was able to see and be exposed to big time boxing. And but when I became a TV network like HBO, let's say, said, Dmitry, okay, you're a promoter now. If you fight on our network, we'll give you 6 dates. So you start from a very high level. I had to really start from a club show level, promoting my own fights and then other events, and really kind of climb up the ranks to learn the sport of boxing, to learn from A to Z. And I believe that benefits me, benefits the fighters I represent, and benefits the fans, and will benefit the sport of boxing, because my goal is to be inclusive, is to work with everybody, to make the biggest and the best fights, and to make the sport of boxing grow and make it as great as it could be.
Let's talk about some upcoming fights. Give me your thoughts on Anthony Joshua, Francis Ngannou.
I think Anthony Joshua beats, possibly stops Francis Ngannou.
Keith Thurman is coming from a long inactivity to face Tim Tszyu. Give us your thoughts on that fight.
I love Tim Tszyu. I think he's very talented, very good fighter. Keith Thurman is, past his prime. His best weight was at welterweight. He hasn't fought in a long time. And Tim Tszyu is a strong, big, courageous. So I think that he stops Keith Thurman.
Teofimo Lopez in a few days is facing Jermaine Ortiz. What do you know about Jermaine Ortiz?
I don't know much about him. Teofimo Lopez is a hot and cold fighter. If he shows up and his mind is right and he had a good camp, he's almost unbeatable. But if he doesn't, he can lose. So if the right Teofimo Lopez shows up, he'll be explosive and spectacular. And if he doesn't, if he didn't have a good camp, if his mind ain't right, if something happened in his personal life and whatever that disturbs his thoughts, Ortiz may be the winner. So it's which makes it interesting to tune in and watch him, because you never know what's going to happen. But pound for pound, he's a very, very talented fighter.
Should a fight with Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford be discussed? And if so, what do you think of that fight?
Yes, I like that fight a lot. I think Terence Crawford is kind of like a Sugar Ray Leonard, who went up in weight and beat some of the best fighters at welterweight, middleweight, super middleweight. I love that fight. I believe that it'll do a lot for the sport of boxing in getting fans engaged. I believe it's a big fight. I give Terence Crawford. He's a big guy, and Canelo came up from welterweight. He's a strong fighter. He's not a big guy. He's a strong guy, but he's not a big guy. And I do believe Canelo obviously did wonderful for the sport of boxing, and is drives it now. That he's on the way down. He hasn't been as spectacular and as explosive as he was some years ago. He's vulnerable. Crawford may be at his peak, coming off that big win against Spence. I mean, his boxing IQ is just on another level. He's so smart and so adaptive and just a great, great fight. So it's a fight that I would want to see. And usually a good big man beats a good little man. But this is a different story. I give Terence Crawford a real shot. And I would love to see that fight.
And we thank you for that. And we also thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming on the show. Your input has been a great help for this show. Thank you, man. We hope to have you on again in the near future. And good luck with your series at DAZN and your opener on February 20th.
Great. I look forward to coming back, and I look forward to seeing some of those interviews from back in the day on Broadway Boxing. My interviews when both you and I, a couple of pounds lighter and a little bit younger.
Yep. I got those. I got some classics and unreleased. Be on the lookout for those. We appreciate your time.